Daf Yomi. Tractate Zevachim, page 66, top of the page, starting the Gemara, the Talmud, with the words Deshani b'mai, ilem Deshani b'melika, neim medeloke Rabbi Yehoshua ben B'Shimon Emar, Shemarati Shamdin v'chal zoliv. According to the Mishnah, a bird sin offering that one sacrificed according to the procedure of a burnt offering is disqualified. The Gemara asks, with regard to what right did the priest change the procedure? If we say that he changed the pinching by severing the head completely, as is proper for a burnt offering, shall we say that the Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, who says, I heard that priests would sever the head completely, even in the sacrifice of a bird sin offering. The Gemara responds, and what is wrong with this conclusion? Have we not already explained that the Mishnah in the previous chapter, 65a, with regard to pinching, is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon? Lo, Deshani b'azo. The Gemara offers another explanation. No, the Mishnah is referring to a case where the priest changed the procedure in the rite by sprinkling, not right meaning R-I-G-H-T, but R-I-T-E, the ritual, like rite of sprinkling by squeezing all the blood at once, as one would do with a burnt offering, rather than sprinkling the blood on the altar as is proper for a sin offering. Under such circumstances, Rabbi Elazar's son, Rabbi Shimon, would also agree that the offering is disqualified. Assalamu alaikum. Kema se kulan besula v'filu kema se chad se shim chados. Deshani b'mai ilem deshani b'malika. Amar mal malika b'chol makom b'mizbeach sheiro. Elav deshani b'azo midesef b'azo reshanan b'azo. This too stands to reason that the Mishnah is referring to a change in the sprinkling. This can be inferred from the fact that the Mishnah teaches in the latter clause, if one sacrificed a bird sin offering above the red line according to the procedure of any of the offerings, it is disqualified. This applies even if he sacrifices according to the procedure of the sin offering, and for the sake of the sin offering, with regard to what right did the priest change the location of the procedure. If we say that he changed the pinching, performing it above the red line, didn't the master already say that with regard to a bird sin offering, that pinching is valid anywhere on the altar? Rather, is it not that he changed location of the sprinkling? And since the ruling of the latter clause is stated with regard to sprinkling by inference, the ruling of the first clause is also stated with regard to sprinkling midi area. The Gemara responds to this proof. Are the cases comparable? This case is as it is, and that case is as it is, even if the ruling of the latter clause is stated with regard to a change in the location of the sprinkling. The ruling of the first clause may still be stated with regard to a change in the procedure of the pinching, in which case the Mishnah would not be in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon. According to the Mishnah, a burnt offering that one sacrificed according to the procedure of a sin offering is disqualified. The Gemara asks, with regard to what right did the priest change the procedure? If we say that he changed the pinching of the bird's nape by leaving the head partially attached, as is proper for a sin offering, then from the fact that the latter clause, meaning the first clause of the next Mishnah, 66b, teaches, all the offerings enumerated above do not render one who swallows their meat ritually impure when it is in the throat, and one who benefits from them is liable for misuse of consecrated property. By inference, we must say that the Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua, as if it is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehoshua. Doesn't he say a little later on in that Mishnah concerning a burnt offering, whose nape was pinched according to the procedure of a sin offering? One who derives benefit from it is not liable for misusing consecrated property. Rather, the Mishnah must be referring to a change in the procedure of squeezing out the blood. Instead of squeezing out the blood, the priest sprinkled it on the wall of the altar as if it were a sin offering. In this case, even Rabbi Yehoshua would concede that one is liable for misusing it. But say, the last clause of the subsequent Mishnah, in the case of a burnt offering, that one sacrificed below the red line according to the procedure of sin offering, and for the sake of sin offering, Rabbi Eliezer says one who benefits from it is liable for misuse of consecrated property, as it remains a burnt offering. Rabbi Yehoshua says one who benefits from it is not liable for misuse of consecrated property, as the bird assumes the status of a sin offering here. With regard to what right did the priest change the procedure and perform it as if it were a sin offering? And if we say that he changed the squeezing, this poses a difficulty, as it is reasonable to say, Rabbi Yehoshua says, that it was not liable for misuse specifically when the priest changed the pinching, as pinching a burnt offering of a bird, as though it were a sin offering changes its status. But does he say this in a case where it was pinched properly and the priest changed the squeezing procedure alone? It is unreasonable to suggest that the offering changes its status at this later stage. Rather, this final clause must be referring to a change with regard to the pinching. But can it be that the first clause concerning a sin offering sacrifice as a burnt offering, and the last clause concerning the dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua are both referring to a change with regard to the pinching, but the middle clause concerning a burnt offering sacrifice as a sin offering is referring to a change with regard to the squeezing in? Yes, indeed. Your answer is indeed. The first clause and the last clause are referring to a change with regard to the pinching, and the middle clause is referring to a change with regard to the squeezing. Okay? New Mishnah. The Mishnah says, "V'chulon ein mitam beis hablio umoali b'hem chutz b'chatas oiv she'as l'mas g'mas chatas Hashem chatas." And all the offerings enumerated in the previous Mishnah, even those that are disqualified and may not be eaten or sacrificed, still differ from carcasses of unslaughtered kosher birds, in that they do not render one who swallows their meat ritually impure when the meat is in the throat. This is because the pinching of the napes of burnt offerings, like the slaughter of animals, prevents them from assuming the status of a carcass. But nevertheless, since they are forbidden to the priests, one who derives benefit from any of them is liable for misusing consecrated property. That is the halacha in all cases except for the burnt sin offering, that one sacrificed below the red line according to the procedure of the sin offering, and for the sake of the sin offering, since it was sacrificed properly, and it is permitted for priests to partake of a fit sin offering. There is no liability for misuse of consecrated property. Okay? Nice. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Moalim Ba. Rabbi Yehoshua Omer En Moalim Ba. In the case of a burnt offering that one improperly sacrificed below the red line, according to the procedure of a sin offering, and one did so for the sake of a sin offering, Rabbi Eliezer says, one who derives benefit from it is liable for misusing consecrated property, as it remains a burnt offering, whose meat is never permitted to the priests. Rabbi Yehoshua says one who derives benefit from it is not liable for misusing consecrated property, since the entire sacrificial process was conducted according to the procedure of a sin offering. The offering assumes the status of a sin offering in this regard. Omer Rabbi Eliezer, Uma im chatos she'ein mo'elim bo lishmo, kesheshina shmo mo'alim bo, oilo shmo'alim bo lishmo, kesheshina shmo elodin shim maluba. The Mishnah recounts a dispute between the Tanaim. Rabbi Eliezer said, and in the case of a sin offering that was sacrificed for its sake, one is not liable for misusing it. And nevertheless, when one changed its designation and sacrificed it not for its sake, one is liable for misusing it. Then in the case of a burnt offering, where one is liable for misusing it even when it was sacrificed for its sake, when one changed its designation and sacrificed it not for its sake. Is it not right that he's liable for misusing it? Amado Rabbi Yehoshua, lo. Ima martu chatat shishina et shema l'shim oila. Shikein shishina et shema davar sheyesh bo neilo. Toimer beoilo shishina et shema l'shim chatos. Shikein shina et shema davar sheyesh bo neilo. Rabbi Yehoshua said to him, no, that kal v'chomer inference is not correct. As if you said with regard to a sin offering, for which one changed its designation and sacrificed it for the sake of a burnt offering, that there is liability for misuse, this is reasonable, because he changed its designation to an item for which there is liability for its use. Would you say in the case of a burnt offering, for which one changed its designation and sacrificed it for the sake of a sin offering, that there is liability for misuse? As in that case, he changed its designation for an item to an item for which there is no liability for its misuse.